Eventually it'll show up here.
So, do you remember this?
Unfortunately.
Not that particular image.
I don't remember images in this book. Like I remember looking at this. Like it's a very memorable thing, but
Oh, we're live. When did you hit that button?
A while ago. I said that it would happen.
Oh, I was bad. So I don't remember this picture basically.
Okay.
Being in the it's like his met with a counselor, drew a picture of how I viewed my place in the world, and it's like really postmodern.
Hey guys.
Stamp.
We know we're live. We need URLs. Can you
to shut up?
Gretchen, if we're not here to talk about books on the live stream, I don't know what we're here to do.
No, but Michaela has to introduce it first.
Do I?
Yeah.
Fine.
They only get here because they know what we are.
Michaela, do the thing!
Yeah. Hi. Welcome to Bibliomancy for Beginners. This is our side thing called Bibliomancy, and by side thing I mean small series where we drink alcohol and talk about books. This is the second of 3 planned. Although we're doing a different book than we originally planned. Originally, I had wanted to do the very long and intimidating postmodern text, which is One Rainy Day in May. But it's very long and intimidating, and I didn't get a chance to read it because midterms and stuff. So we went with something that was quicker and that some of us had already read before.
Yeah, that we had already read.
Yep.
Everyone but me.
We've done a blog post about it on your blog, which will be linked below.
Yep.
So you'll be able to read that. And that's more of a review. This is a casual discussion, let's say.
Casual.
Real casual.
Mainly for the benefit of bringing Gretchen into the experience.
Yeah, so I had picked this book to be... It's John Dies at the End, by the way, if we have not said the title.
By the way, this hasn't gone out on Book Club Twitter.
No, not yet.
When you get a chance?
Me? I have to do it?
Well, yes, you know the URL, and then I can retweet it. And I feel like I should bring this up early on.
Okay, so we are doing today this book, John Dies at the End. This is the movie cover, because it's also apparently a movie.
It is.
That I have never watched.
It's on Netflix.
I will never watch it.
It's quite good. Oh, no, Gretchen, you can't, don't ever do this. Especially to books of mine.
Oh, no.
The spines, they cry out in pain, suffering. Why do that to them?
That's different than, okay.
That's different to what?
You know what?
Just... Do you wanna read the back of the book?
Yes.
For people who have, because it's a book.
Okay.
And because I'm still eating dinner.
Yeah, alright. First off, this is a special series because we are all drinking alcohol. I may or may not have been drunk since last night. I am the only one currently like this, although I hope that they will follow me in due time.
We're
However,
trying our damnedest.
drunk since last night does not mean that I have been over drinking or anything like that. I have been responsibly drinking. And because that is a big message to this book club, is drink responsibly. We're not here to get like totally smashed and have to leave this screen to throw up. That's not the point. We're here to drink responsibly.
Have fun.
Enliven
the book club.
Yeah. Mostly just makes it that he talks more and I get more annoyed because it's just blah, blah, blah. And anyways.
You get angrier at me, I talk more, which makes you even angrier. And Michaela sits here distraught because she has to be between the two of us.
Last time I was over there, that was kind of nice.
Anyways.
You could look at your reflection in your door mirror and just say, "Hey, other Michaela."
So, the back of this book, because if you, this is a book club, so we're going to talk about the book, but we usually go into it first by saying spoiler-free reviews, just to give you an idea of what the book is about. So, in case you haven't read it before, this is the back of the book. Stop. You should not have touched this book with your bare hands. No, don't put it down. It's too late. They're watching you. My name is David Wong. My best friend is John. Those names are fake. you might want to choose
I don't
yours.
think I want you, who, I'm going to be, spoiler alert, dislike the book, reading the back of this in the most deadpan, emotionally dead way.
I'll finish it and then maybe.
You may not want to know about the things you'll read on these pages about the sauce, about Karak, about the invasion of the future. But it's too late. You touched the book. You're in the game. You're under the only defense is knowledge. You need to read this book to the end. Even the part with the worst. Why? You just have to trust me.
It's a really good part.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
The important thing is this. The drug is called soy sauce, and it gives users a window into another dimension. John and I never had a chance to say no. You still do. Unfortunately for us, if you make the right decision, we'll have a much harder time explaining how to fight off the otherworldly invasion currently threatening to enslave humanity. I'm sorry to have told you this. I really do. But if you read these careful then the dark book in the world that the world's about to enter as a result, it is crucial that you keep one thing in mind. None of this is my fault. And that's the book. That's the back of the book. That's the back of the book.
Those of you that are horror and science fiction fans are probably pretty enticed by that.
Those of you who liked, humor, 2, good books, 3, Douglas Adams.
Yeah, it is very, yeah. Yep, I agree.
I agree
Hitchhikers.
with one of those three things.
Yeah, it is very Hitchhiker's Guide, but with more fart jokes and...
People exploding.
It's much darker, it's much... Okay, I'm not going to make
It's
the claim
not-
for much funnier, because that's a very different estimation.
Yeah,
It's much more...
fun.
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 Yeah, it is fun.
Fun. It's fun.
Anyways, spoiler-free reviews.
You can go first.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in case you missed the derision currently occurring in my tone and sarcastic commentary,
Yeah, no, I've never seen someone read the back of a book so suckily.
listen. Michaela warned me in advance that this was going to be a humor horror book, which already doesn't say good things to me because I can only take a certain kind of humor. Like, I'm the person that isn't always sold on stand-up comedy, can't watch sitcoms, because there's a certain kind of comedy that drives me the wrong way. And this entire book is just an acid trip of spiders and exploding body parts. And it's a kind of humor that just, maybe, I think it would really have been funny if it was in small doses, and not so hyperbolic every single line. But for me, it was just too much, and it didn't make sense. And then by the time the book actually started making sense, I was already so far into not caring that I couldn't even be enticed. So it did get interesting in the end. I was just like, I'm already done. I would never have finished this book if it wasn't for this book club. So that's how I feel.
Out of curiosity, did you get through the intro with the two of them, with the girl in the house, like saying, "Oh, my boyfriend's haunting it"? Like, did you get through that comfortably?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious, because that is, for context, a very, narratively concise section. It has all the traits of humor and weirdness, but also, like, a very clear arc of, these are things you need to know to understand this story.
Yeah, I mean, I read it.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't doubt that, because the only reason I ask is because the later parts start introducing things that don't necessarily, like, this is weirdness. Like, it's weirdness that exists in the universe, and it's not inconsistent with how bizarre and dumb it is, but it's also not necessarily explained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was curious how a very specific aspect of this story, which had all the parts of it that we like in it, on display, yet still had a narrative clarity.
Yeah. I mean, as we've discussed, I don't like when people are just like, hey, this is a funny, confusing thing, and I'm not going to explain it ever, and I'm just going to be like,
Mhm.
And so it just...
So, Gretchen, you would say, or we're having an interview right now. You as a famous individual, otherwise you would not be interviewed. So, congratulations! You were important here. Would you say you need clarity on all aspects of a narrative, or what is it that creates an issue with you?
I just wasn't able to get into this plot. Like, there was just, I think it was a combination of, because I can take, like, I understand that you can't wrap everything up with a bow, and that, you need to introduce things that are then answered, and that's what makes sense to a plot.
Some things are larger than the narrative.
Yeah, and I would understand that, but I think that, like, coupled with the way this book is written, which is just not my style of humor, not anything I find funny.
Totally specific style of humor, so
Yeah.
we're not calling that into question.
Yeah. So I think that plus that, I just totally disconnected from the book after about, like, the first 5 chapters. I was like, I can't even try anymore. I'm gonna slog through this so I know the plot, but, like... and, like I said, I found some interesting things in the end, but by that point, I had just stopped caring so hard. I was like, well...
I mean,
okay.
No, that is fair, because before we continue, I would just like to say, this is, like, full, it has a lot of, dick jokes, a lot of, we agree that there are, one, maybe two too many fart jokes. That's just because the fart joke is, a very specific branch off, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But, we're both entirely in favor of 13-year-old humor, as long as it's paired with very astute commentary. Yeah. Like Captain Underpants. That is a very poignant narrative.
I would also say that it's the same argument I made when so for Taylor and Maya's racial passing class, we watched The Jerk in class, and The Jerk is a very specific type of comedy, and I presented on it.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
We didn't watch it. You presented on it.
We watched it.
Did we? I've already forgotten.
We watched it, man. We
watched it.
Not only that, but I presented on it, and I discussed how it's a very specific type of comedy, and that there isn't really a plot to that film. There is, but there isn't really. It's closer to sketch. It takes a back seat. It's closer to sketch comedy, so there's a lot of jokes that don't connect to each other, and scenes that skip and don't quite get together and make sense. And this book is kind of like that. It's written in the way that sketch comedy would be, of a lot of little individual things that are quick fire. And not everyone likes that type of comedy. I get that.
Not everyone should like it either. We're not saying this is the only way to be funny, because if every book was like this, it'd be exhausting, and not every book can be like this. But I would also, on an aside, I may not remember actually watching that film in its totality, but I do remember your entire presentation, so I cared.
Thanks, man. I worked hard on that.
I could tell.
That's because he let me do a presentation on The Jerk, and I was like, yes?
Which is Jesus. See, as soon as I have a single drink, I can't remember anything's name. Steve Martin.
Yes, Martin.
Who plays banjo. Yes. Really quite well.
Yeah.
So you guys gonna give your spoiler for reviews? You're gonna talk about Steve Martin and banjo?
I don't know, I really like Steve Martin.
That's part of the fun of our
The Jerk is an interesting film, actually.
It's a good
movie. Some very interesting racial commentary. Up there with, I'd say Blazing Saddles is in a league of its own.
It's got a bunch of famous funny people in it.
Yeah, Steve
Martin.
Martin.
I've never seen Blazing Saddles either.
So. Blazing Saddles is actually. If you watch it now, the fact that you're scandalized by it means we still need to watch this movie.
Yeah.
40 years after it was made.
Yeah.
Well,
it's meant to be stressful.
It's a very good, very funny film. No, Steve Martin grows up in The Jerk. Steve Martin grows up in a family of entirely black, lower class individuals and thinks he's black. And they tell him, no, you're adopted. And he needs to go out into the world and make his own way. It's fantastic. It's a good movie. It's fun.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's done tastefully, though.
Tastefully is almost an understatement because it does actually deal very well with the racial issues of the time.
And it does also sort of talk about how one views your own racial identity.
So it's not even saying, here are a lot of stereotypes. We're gonna make fun of them, but it's actually playing to a more understanding viewpoint. But we're here to talk about John dies at the end.
Anyway, I got this book for Christmas, not last year, but the year before that, so like 2 years ago, and I read it then, so like end of December, beginning of January, and then I was like, we need to do this for book club because I know that Taylor's going to love it, and I'm pretty sure Gretchen's going to hate it, but I still want to hear her opinions on it, which is probably how this is going to be.
You are correct!
So I read it again in August of that year, so I read it like 6 months after reading it the first time and still loved it.
And I read it over the summer, I think, for me.
I love it. I find it funny. I feel like the comedy is a really good counterpoint to the horror in this book because it has some really good horror. And I'm really picky about my horror because I really care about horror. So the fact that I'm saying that is saying a lot. It's really good horror if you like that. And I realize that Gretchen does not like that, but it scared you, yeah? There were definitely parts. Shitload did not scare you.
No.
The implications of that didn't?
I mean, the implications of that, I bet you I couldn't watch the movie and like have to see that graphically, but reading the book, I had so far disconnected from the writing style. I was like, well, this is just another thing.
So, hold on. Can I very slightly alter this because you're leaning over and I think the public deserves to see me.
Yeah.
If this cuts your shoulder off at all, feel free to move it back, but that bit of the Game Informer magazine, I don't think we really need to see.
Wow.
I'm more important. No, I was just gonna say that the shitload part of the film. Shitload is actually his official name. We're not just like we're not just being dicks about this. That was actually what he wanted to be called.
Did cut off my shoulder.
Oh no.
Okay. We don't need to see that much of my left shoulder, so I'm gonna move it back. No, I was gonna say that part of the film was done very well. I would say the spiders and toupees weren't. That's because they didn't have toupees, and we actually saw them too much. Or rather, the scene in which they were displayed was too long.
Yeah.
Gretchen, by the way, it takes the first chunk of the story's arc, and then the last, say, 50 pages, and puts them into a movie. And since there are two very distinct story arcs, it tries to fit them together.
I was going to say, okay.
It doesn't do it well, unfortunately. It just does both parts independently well, and it's not at any point a poor adaptation, but its attempt to condense them.
Because there's too much that happens in this book. Yeah. There's no way.
So it should have just done the first story arc, and it would have done it beautifully because it adapted very well. The only time we see the spiders are not in Vegas. Beautiful, beautiful time. It was when it was in the backseat of his car, and the...
Hang on, should we introduce the spoilers part of this?
This isn't actually any spoilers.
I know, but I would like to actually discuss this.
Well, we can come back to it. I just wanted to say that the camera stays on the spider thing for several seconds too long. And since it's like a low-budget movie, it loses the horror element of it. If the weight of horror is not what you see,
but
the implication of it.
You can only see it sort of out of the corner of your eye when you're not quite paying attention to it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for jumping in.
Yep.
This happens a lot when I'm drunk.
Yep.
I'm very sorry.
You mean you like to hear yourself speak?
I do, too
much.
What
a shocker!
And I don't want to cut you guys off. So, Michaela, as always, you are here to tell me if I am being too dumb here.
Bitch slap! Get out of here.
Please, I don't want to intrude on your two spaces.
I don't know what I was saying before. Anyway, I like it. I think that you should read it. If you like horror, science fiction, and comedy, all of these things are wrapped up into a nice little puzzle. I think that the second book in this series is more entertaining than the first, and actually is a lot better written. This is a debut.
It's a lot stronger.
This is a debut, and it was written with each chapter going up online. So each chapter has a lot, which means that the plot of the thing is kind of all over the place, and that there isn't really a plot. Whereas the second one is the opposite, where there is a very, very obvious plot arc that is happening, and not as much goes on in each chapter.
It bears mentioning that not only was this released chapter by chapter, but it was essentially a Halloween special. So every year a new part went up, and the author is listed as David Wong, who is essentially the main character of this. It is the nom de plume of Jason Pargin, who does a lot of writing or who is a head editor of Crack.com. He doesn't write too much for it specifically these days, but it was every year he would release a new part of it, so they're very disconnected parts of time, while still dealing with the same central idea.
Yep.
Also, I have a friend, my good friend Sean, who I've been a coworker with, actually read it when it was going up online.
Ooh.
Which was actually, like us who are only 21, really, it was a while back, so to speak.
Yeah. In any case, Taylor, your spoiler-free overall opinion of this.
Oh wow, I finally have a chance to talk in this book club. I who have taken up half of this book club.
What's your opinion?
I'm so sorry, Gretchen. If you hate this book, you deserve a chance to tell us about how you hate this book.
I kind of did. You just go ahead and say your feelings.
No. I think this is a great book. I think it's... I made the comparison to Hitchhiker's Guide. I think this is a stronger book than Hitchhiker's Guide.
I agree, because as someone who just reread Hitchhikers and was like...
Especially once you get into the latter parts of the series, where Douglas Adams is a very funny guy, but his actual plot and interesting things and horribly sexist portrayal of the one woman in the entire galaxy of Trillium are kind of disappointing. It's like book 4, 5, maybe book 3 mostly as well. Really bland. I'm not here to talk about Hitchhiker's Guide. I think John dies at the end. I was just reading something as a thing about Hitchhiker's Guide. That's the issue. I was just reading that. I think John dies at the end cycles between one of the funniest books I've ever read and one of the most interesting books I've ever read. And it switches between horror and comedy.
Literally, sentence to sentence, it can do.
Because if those things are about building kind of a scene in your head and an emotion and an ambiance, the fact that it can move so casually and so effectively between them, I think is a huge testament to the writing and to the content and originality of that content.
Continent?
I started going into continent. I cut off before the T because the T is the damning aspect of it.
I have had 400 times more alcohol than you, and I can still stay on track.
Gretchen, I can't even stand up right now, and I've had a drink and a half.
Hey, German ancestry.
No, my balance and sentence talking ability is gone. I don't need that. I don't need that.
So now we're going to move on to the spoiler portion of this video.
Hold on, I might not have been done.
You're done.
I had another sentence. I had one more sentence that closed it off. I think it's a great book.
You had 2 more sentences.
I did want to actually. I did want to address the sequel, which we've discussed off camera to an extent, in that it was not released periodically. It was a complete story as a complete arc. And while it does move away from more of the constant jokes and weirdness, I think it is a brilliant story. In just what it is saying, what it does, the commentary it covers, and how relevant those things are right now for us as a society. So it's still a fantastic book. But the ideas it comes forward with are, dark, bizarre, and really, really important
I would agree.
for a lot of issues, and I'm gonna stick with that. We can deal with it later if we want. So, spoilers.
Now we're gonna go into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the book, go and read it now, and then come back and watch the VOD of this video later. We'll leave it up on my channel, youtube.com/thepetpipercalls. And
It'll also appear on my blog,
Yeah.
my Life is a Notebook.
and it will be on my blog as well. And all of these are linked down below under the video, obviously. So just bookmark it or something. We usually start with favorite parts. Do you have a favorite part?
Oh Jesus! I didn't come prepared for any of this.
Favorite? Okay. I do have a favorite part,
Mm-hmm.
and that is probably the end of the novel. Where, like I said, I did think that it said some interesting things that I was able to tune into because I tuned out like most of the middle chunk of the book.
Out of clarity, because we are in the spoiler section, are you talking more about his conversation with Arnie, where he discovers things?
No.
Partial spoilers. Or are you talking, they're showing up in that alternate dimension?
The alternate dimension is partially what I'm talking about because that's where some more things are become clear. But then I don't know why, but I was really fascinated by the last few pages when they go into another alternate universe and I'm like, oh, you can save the world, and they just play basketball and leave, and then the 4 other kids follow in and save the world and come back.
the teen.
Yeah, and I found that, I don't know, maybe it's just because, like, also, like, my fascination, like, with the trope of Data Lisa out there and destroyed, but
Yeah.
it was one of the, maybe, I'll be honest, there are probably a lot of, I mean, I know there are some other things that are addressed and tackled within the meat of the book, but I was just so done. And just I feel like I was being just hit in the face with every line, and like every gag had a new gag that came after it, and there was no breathing space.
Which is great.
No, it's just too hyperbolic for me. So I like I do with Taylor, I tuned out the majority of what was said, and then I tuned back in, and when things became a little bit clearer, and then again the end said something very interesting about something I'm interested in, which is like tropes and expectations. And then I just kind of sat there and I closed the book and I was like, wait, this is the end of the book, but John didn't die at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Alright, I'll give you props for that one. So
John dies just about everywhere but the end of the book.
Like, he literally dies 2 or 3 times in the book, or what we perceive to be death, but then he's back and it's like, no, he's here. It's fine, don't worry. 2 things. First, yeah, it's basically like they ignore the Animorphs pilot at the end of the book. I say pilot because I've also watched the show, the very short-lived show of Animorphs.
Oh.
Because the local library up in New Hampshire has Animorphs. So bad. So bad. But 2, I was wondering if you could expound on what you meant by hyperbolic in the writing. Is it simply that it keeps coming? Like there are new jokes, there's new weirdness, there's new interesting ideas? Or what is your issue with that?
there's just new dumbassery. Like the fact that his phone is broken and then John is like, you need to pick up a bratwurst, I'm gonna call you through a bratwurst. And then he starts talking to a dog, and I'm like,
Well, he was talking to John through the dog. The dog was a mouthpiece.
why? Why did it switch? And it was just like one of those things where I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then it just things like that, and it would just keep building and going, and it ended up just being to me like a whole string of really, really hyperbolic dad jokes. Just train rapidly to me.
So by hyperbolic, you simply mean literally over the top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like comedy that I would have found funnier in smaller doses, because like individually, I'm like, this is funny. I appreciate that this is funny and it is amusing, but
No, Gretchen, I understand. You were saying this book was too funny all of the time, and that we can understand that. It's tiring.
No.
That is
No.
literally what you just described to me.
It's too
It
funny.
was trying to be too funny for the entire book. It could have been funny, but because it made
Then-
itself a new normal.
so
A new
here-
normal
here.
of a writing style I fucking hate.
Yeah.
You would like the second book better because it's more of
Yeah.
that. It still has the comedy, but it's pared down a lot and goes second under to something that is not more horror. The horror is still there as well,
Yeah,
but like
it-
more political commentary
it is-
on the way the world works and the way that
It is still
Oh,
more of a
the
narrative.
protagonist was.
I should
Simply.
also cop to that as well. Is that I am not a huge fan of gore,
Yeah.
and especially excessive gore.
Oh,
Like,
this
I
has
will-
some stuff.
Yeah, and there's not just like dumb joke after dumb joke after dumb joke, but there's also gore after gore after gore after gore.
Pretty sure David
Yeah.
like punts a kitten at one point. It's fine.
No, he literally punts it
Like a lot of people get
out of
low-
frustration.
There's a lot of like description of hamburger meat, body bits on things. And it's one
I'm
of those
into
things
that.
where, again, it might have had an impact on me if it happened,
Less.
less.
Yeah.
But it just kept happening. And that's why also, like, I was afraid of the horror monsters and the horror elements when they were first brought in. But again and again and again and again, and I was like, I'm not afraid of this anymore. So, it just, everything, like, train wrecked together in some massive, like, 60-car pileup on the Autobahn. It was just like, I don't care anymore.
No, that is actually a very valid. I'm not here to invalidate your other opinions, but I'm saying like the fact that it does have reoccurring things of horrific nature, specific things reoccurring, does technically reduce their weight. I would also say like that for some of your issues, like the bratwurst thing, you're like, ugh. Then his phone's dead, so like John calls him on a bratwurst, and he has to like talk into the bratwurst, and like the mustard and the ketchup are like smearing on his face, and then he's like doing that until like the bratwurst is running out of steam. So then like Molly the dog starts like projecting
Molly's
astrally.
another thing. When David kills Molly and blows her up, I was like, oh my god!
But she's
What the
okay.
fuck?
It's
and
fine.
then she comes back.
Yeah,
And it's like
it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry
No,
about it.
that's what I mean too. Like, none of the deaths meant anything to me because, like, I don't
Because
know. They're coming back.
In that
I don't give a
context,
shit.
they don't need to. They're not real. They're, well, technically they're duplicates.
Yeah.
Like,
I was affected by him killing the dog, and then the dog
Yeah.
came back.
well, that's because everyone's affected by dogs dying.
Yes.
We'll get into that sort of thing later, but it's also, what I was saying, it's like, you're like, oh, then there's the bratwurst, and Michaela and I were just like, that's the bratwurst, the bratwurst. Oh my god, the bratwurst. Oh, it was
No.
best part of it. Like, we recently rewatched the film together on a pizza night. It was great. Great time. Invite yourself. Come over. Wonderful experience.
Yep.
We rewatched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the first time together because we'd both seen it separately.
Yes.
But, we're trying to remember what parts are adapted into the film, and it's literally the first 150
Like
pages.
every single thing that happens in the first one.
They did a really good job with the movie because they adapted all the things in the book well, and they didn't say, hey, you know what would be a better idea than what the book does well? But we're like,
you
oh,
literally can't make any of this bigger.
exactly, but they don't change any of it. So it's a really good adaptation in what it's specifically adapting. But we're watching it and we're like, oh man, I don't remember if he did the bratwurst scene. I bet they didn't do the bratwurst scene. That's like really weird. It's out there.
And it's kind of dumb. Like it's dumb.
It's super dumb. It's amazing, but it's super dumb. Because you're like,
I feel like this was made by my dad, the age he is now, so like the dad joke age, except for when he was on acid in the 80s.
yeah, but then it's like, okay, you need money. Okay, check behind the bratwurst bun. And John, who's been like, okay, I'll do this thing you're telling me to do, and it's kind of working out, so it's weird. Check behind the bratwurst bun. There's only lettuce, and he's like, yeah, it didn't work. So it's like all super weird, but they adapt. We're like, it's not going to adapt the bratwurst. It adapted the bratwurst.
It did.
It's super dumb. It's amazing.
And it's
If you stop taking the narrative seriously, I think is the important thing. And Gretchen, I'm not saying that you not taking this narrative not seriously is a bad decision. That's simply
It's-
a character of self.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't even find it funny, not serious.
Exactly, but that's the thing. You either don't take it seriously, and you think, okay, this is fine. We're going.
Sure, okay.
I couldn't have guessed a Bratwurst. I like that. But you're like, this is dumb. It makes no sense. That's like, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not that it's dumb and it makes no sense. Like, I totally allow, like,
But then
I didn't find, individually,
Mm.
Mhm.
I find them interesting and sometimes funny.
Yes.
Individually. My issue is put together in such close contact again and again and
Mhm.
again. Any impact they could have had on me disappears.
But so for the people who were reading this when
Yeah.
it originally came out, there was a year between each of these
Yeah.
chapters,
No,
and
that
Which way? So on one hand, you can either take time between each chapter, and they will be interesting and weird, and completely subvert any expectations you can try to form.
or it could be like, all right, time to have fun, and
You
sit
can
and go.
have fun. You can get through the entire book, which we did in very short spans of time.
Yeah,
originally,
I read
and
it
had
in
a
one
great
day
time.
ish.
And finally, the other interpretation you can take is that Gretchen hates fun.
Okay, so you want to know? I know that we're just gonna like skip over like both of you, but I feel like I need to defend myself.
No, we
And
have
skip
actually had
to-
our spoiler-free reviews.
No, and skip to my favorite character, which was John. John
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, go because we have sequel context that we might want to bring to this. We would actually love to hear your opinion because John is great.
Because I did enjoy how the book subverted your expectations. And John, for
Mhm.
me, David is a douche.
Yes,
David
Yes.
is a douche I do not like.
he
John
hates
is a
himself.
douche
We
that
hate
I
him.
love. And I don't know, John, like a thing with the bratwurst, like, check inside the bun. And he's
Mhm.
like, oh, that didn't work. Like, that was great.
Yeah.
And John's whole thing, like, oh, and when he's trapped with Amy in the car, and John's, like, recounting his story,
Mhm.
and, granted, it's made extra better because of David's lens, and, like, being like, it can't be true. But, like, John, I enjoy John so much, and he was interesting to me, and everything he did, I was like, yes.
Mhm.
Yes, you are great.
Mhm.
So I don't hate fun. I hate how this book is constructed.
You hate fun, but I would say, David is held to a sort of internal consistency of narrative that John is not. If some outlandish aspect needs to be introduced to the narrative, it is left to John to do it because we do not question it in the same way. Whereas David is required to assess and give explanation for all of his actions.
He's also a douche.
They're
yeah,
both
and we
douches.
are aware of that.
Yeah.
Because he makes no apologies for it. He says,
No.
I am a douche. I hate myself.
But I'm saying that if I actually
Mhm.
hated fun, I would like David because David is the one trying to make
Mhm.
sense of everything. And I hate
Mhm.
David.
But simply all I'm adding is that David, the main character, the first person narrator, explains everything. John is for all of the Deus Ex Machinas.
Mm-hmm. Deus Ex John.
Yeah, Deus Ex John. Because John says, hey, you know what? And then something changes.
Yes,
What?
let's
Where
sing
do you root
Camel
that?
Holocaust.
Yeah.
And the spider thing is coming in, and let's, make the ice statue into holy water so they can lick it. Yes, John.
Exactly. You know what's even weirder? The movie actually comes up with a rendition of Camel Holocaust. That makes sense with the lyrics, and that when you read these lyrics, you're like, how does any sort of song be formed from this? True, the movie only has one bassist as opposed to three, which, we weren't crazy about. We wanted three bassists
Yeah.
doing three different things.
Yeah.
But, it actually made a song. It tried. It succeeded, technically.
I was singing it in my head.
Yeah.
I will never tell you how my melody goes, but I was singing it in my head.
I am super curious because I could never get anything. Go on. I'm gonna find the.
Anyway, you guys supposed to talk about like your favorite parts.
Yeah, we're gonna backtrack a little bit. I want to talk about Shitload and the scene where Shitload is introduced. Not like Shitload as Shitload, but the concept of all of these tiny little bugs that fly and like bore into a person and then kind of explode them
Yeah.
or control them depending on what he needs. That is one of the best horror things I have ever read in a long time, where it was like described in such a way that you were like petrified of these bugs. They're terrifying.
Because
it's such a terrifying
It took a step away from the humor to be in a very realist description of what this looks like.
And what it did to people. Like the description of those people who died. Yeah, I think it also might be. I don't like bugs.
But it was also an immediate. There was no defense against it because it
went from
twists into your skin. That's it.
That's it. You're dead.
That's it. You're goodbye.
Goodbye. Unless you're in maybe a beekeeper's outfit, but even then it went through clothing, so it doesn't even matter.
They don't care.
No. So this thing that you can't fight, that there are millions of, that they get inside of you and control you, and you might not even know that they're in you. You feel fine for a little while.
Yeah, for quite a while, actually, days even.
Depending on
as
what's
they're
going on.
spawning.
Yeah, and then they just burst out of you, and you're mush.
And there's the cop who's saying, there's just been this constant buzzing in my head for days, and then his eyes explode, and they burst out of his eyes. You realize he's just been
He's been shitload the whole time.
Yeah, he's just been all... No,
he's also my favorite
agree.
character, I think.
He's an interesting character. The cop.
Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
I don't remember his name. He was described as Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
It's Frank Appleton, but they just
Detective Appleton, yeah.
We haven't... we're a little further away from this narrative than you are, although we are just as familiar, and doesn't matter. No, I think that's great as just a thing, because one, it plays off of the Horde narrative, which is incredibly terrifying for humans, as we see from our fascination with zombie narratives.
Yes.
And that's something that the sequel, another plug for This Book is Full of Spiders, touches on, because it is incredibly frightening.
Yes.
The mindlessness, the loss of human individuality. But it also plugs...
He does play a lot with also invisible horrors.
Exactly.
It's always stuff that you should be terrified of, need to be wary of, and can't be for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like, this is a thing, and you have no way of knowing if you are a carrier.
Yeah.
Or if you are too far gone.
Yep.
I was frightened of it until I went too far. I also hate bugs.
Lies.
I fucking hate bugs and spiders.
Yeah.
I fucking hate them.
I feel like
you should hate
the
them.
spiders
That's a
are
common
less
human
spiders,
fear.
though. They're like sort of crab things.
No, it's like Donald Trump is a crab spider.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the very blonde fake toupee. Like, he describes it as a rubber banded to their head.
Yeah.
And it's like,
when it goes too far, and I'm like, fuck this shit. I might as well have done acid.
Yeah, but that's
never done acid, don't do drugs.
I'm
serious.
though.
Sure, we agree with that. Alright, go on.
You can go.
Yeah. Do you want more things?
I have 2 in the fridge.
Go grab one, because I'm gonna have another talking bit, and...
Oh, I don't want to listen to you.
Exactly, you don't want to listen to me
Is
talk.
your army lamp out there?
Yes, it's left out on the counter. If not, it's on the top drawer to the immediate left of the stove.
Can you grab me another one of my ciders?
Yeah, in the fridge.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just
they're
in
all-
a 6-pack in the back.
Yeah. All Mackenzie's. Like, yeah. What was I discussing? The
favorite
horror.
part?
Well, no, I mean, I
Horde.
was discussing the
Yeah.
horror because it touches on the Horde, but also discusses on, like, you are unknowingly a carrier of all of this, and you have no way to perceive that you are.
Yeah.
And that's something that the second book does even better for both of those things.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, that book has kept me up at night. Ugh.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is so good. I would say my favorite part, or at least because I love all of this book.
Other than the Bratwurst thing.
Straight, the Bratwurst is really memorable. I love the Vegas scene because, one, I like Marconi as kind of a character because he starts out as a plot device, but in the second book becomes really interesting and
really
he
says really smart things about human nature that I have even brought up in my anthropology classes and had people go, "Oh, that's an interesting idea."
He brings up Dunbar's number, which is an anthropological idea. Watch out for the microphone. Dunbar's not. Yeah, this is in the sequel. Dunbar's number, which is basically that primates, due to an aspect of the brain that processes it, are only able to deal with a certain number of people in their social group.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an actual anthropological idea.
Yep.
And basically anything outside that is considered the other.
Mm-hmm.
And us as English majors, all of us, deal a lot with like the other as a concept, that humans perceive things through opposition, things like that. But as a text, it really goes into that. And I loved Marconi in the second book because he raised a lot of interesting things, and then completely is willing to sacrifice himself for those individual acts. And well, we don't see that much, but Vegas is really his introduction. He's weird. He's a celebrity and also like actually legit. Like
Yeah.
he blows up a meat monster in the beginning, which is A+. A+ introduction.
Over the phone, too.
Exactly. We never hear what he says. It's good. Vegas stands out to me most because John thinks Elton John is an entire group,
Mm-hmm.
not just a man named Elton John, and it's just a group of brothers called Elton John. This is like a small detail of like a joke. It's an all-running thing. Is they're pretending to be the roadies for Elton John. Gretchen, I'm looking directly at you because I'm waiting for you to display something like, yeah, that was a good joke. Damn it, I want you to laugh at that.
It's funny.
Anything? Elton John is great. It's such a dumb thing if he just thinks Elton John's group.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And then they impersonate the roadies. They get into this Vegas show dressed in feather boas.
Mm-hmm.
And then David has this moment where he's like, this guy dies. And I barely remember, like, he has been erased from my memory, and I only barely understand him as a concept sometimes. Because he never existed.
That was good.
Because that is such a strong piece of horror. So it's not like he died, it's just...
And it's
anything I know
Mm.
has been eliminated. It's a lie. It doesn't actually...
Cake is alive.
Well, no, because we were promised cake. Cake does not exist. This is... We fundamentally do not believe cake exists, but sometimes we have this feeling that we are missing some aspect of ourselves that
is cake.
eliminated.
That was
And
cake.
that I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's the same situation of, say, amnesia, where you're like, is the person I was dead? Because they fundamentally do not exist anymore, because they have been eliminated. That stream of consciousness.
I just said that was good.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that.
But I wanted to explain why, for me, that hits home. Why that is a very strong bit of writing. Because even with fart jokes, this is aware of the most fundamental aspects of existential dread.
Mhm.
And I think that's great. It's so smart.
Yeah.
And the second book, I will continue to talk about the second book, only gets better.
Mhm.
And that it takes all the strongest parts and goes even further.
Yep.
I end my talk for at least a little bit, because you guys deserve a moment.
What are your rants that you can rant? Or did you already do them? Because you there's too much.
You've talked about characters.
Too much, too fast.
Too much down too fast.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about favorite characters?
I said
Yeah.
mine was the.
Oh.
Dude,
Sorry, go on, Gretchen.
do you?
Can I basically expounded on mine?
I want to just talk about Amy eventually.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
No.
No, we can talk about Amy.
No,
Eventually,
please do talk
is
about
all-
Amy, because Amy was...
I just wanted to address her eventually, and as long as we're getting there, I'm going to step back and drink a bit more. Gretchen, please. Please, I've been talking a lot. Just,
Yes, you have.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, Amy was at once the female character that I thought would redeem a rather sexist portrayal of women. And then she just fell back into all of the tropes at the end and made me sad. But for 85% of the time her character existed I really liked her.
I'd
And
love
then-
to hear about. I'd love to hear more about your issues with her because I personally want to see what they are.
Well, just because in the end, it's, she, and I understand this to a certain extent, but in the end, David forces upon her to go to college, even though she really doesn't
Mhm.
want to go. He forces her out of the plot because it's too dangerous for her, and it's not that that is the wrong decision necessarily, but he takes away any option that she has to
Mhm.
disagree. And then at the end, she's just seen as the person who could be getting out and going on her life, and but hey, David has forced her to do that. And then it's explained that she really didn't want to go, and it was a crying thing.
That she wanted to stay with him.
Yeah.
At the
And
sacrifice of moving forward. In David's words, at the sacrifice of moving forward with her life.
Yeah. And then she's and then her entire thing in the end to even just keep him around is, should we get engaged? And he goes, yeah. And it's this very, very strong and independent female in the beginning who goes from being someone that you think is mentally handicapped.
Because that bears mentioning. He literally refers to her as cucumber.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, she had a very strong medication after a car accident that led her to vomit frequently, and so he called her sea cucumber because they tend to throw up under stress.
And that was amazing.
From there, and then move into an actual person, and he's like, oh, this is a real individual,
Yeah,
and I'm
was
gonna
amazing.
date
And
her.
she was so strong and independent and so great, and then in the end, she's just forced back into I'm gonna go to college, and can we get engaged?
Mhm.
And then just kind of disappears.
There is a weight to what you're saying, because absolutely, she does listen to him saying, you need to be outside of my life, because this is not safe to you, for you. And then when she also says, we should get engaged, he says, yeah, sure. So it does essentially subvert any of the distance he's established, to be, at best, insignificant.
And it's just so obvious that she's still trying to be back in that action and with him and saving the world. And he's just I have decided that you shall not. And she's just okay.
Because, especially within the narrative, she is at the mercy of weird things are happening in my house. Can you guys who have any knowledge of what's going on be here? And that doesn't put her into any weird circumstances. A couple sort of weird violations of personal space by David, but I'm not really addressing those. But she's definitely in that constraint. Again, the sequel improves so much.
It does.
Because she is not only a very driving force in her own story, but we have all of the fun of Amy.
You also sort of get to read from her point of view for the first time.
You actually have scenes from her view. So I would say, this is weird. This has a lot of aspects. It's bizarre, it's funny, it's dumb. But it also has all of those promises for what are continued. And it's not a subversion of what had been established.
I mean, I guess, but I think my problem, as always, is I think we've had a good version of this argument with a bunch of books where you're well, and this is why.
Yeah.
I think that the other argument is that we're supposed to agree with David that she can't see the monsters. The monsters can hurt her. She has no way to fight back. We know that it's not because she's a girl. It's because literally if there was any person there that was saying that,
I mean, fair.
he would have been you can't, because you have no way of protecting yourself. At least we can see and sort of try and assess and run or do whatever. You would be completely unaware until it's too late.
But in Gretchen's defense, we keep raising, in the sequel, it's so much better.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just going to say.
This book does not.
We've had this argument where, it was written in this way, and so this is why it might be like this, or the sequel is like this and it improves upon it. I am always...
Which is why I'm trying to give you
No.
explanation for why that is. It's literally David saying, I care about you. You are a good human being. It is too dangerous for anyone. Not just you, but specifically you because I care about you. Go somewhere that's safe.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he says that to her, and then she just kind of ends up agreeing, and that felt home true to me after all the fighting that she'd done.
And
then
agree
she's
with
just
Gretchen.
can we get engaged? And I'm
Yeah.
That's my issue.
Mhm.
Is at the end of it feels untrue to her character up until that point.
Yeah.
It feels very true to David.
Yeah.
His reasoning, and I understand it, and it feels true to him. But her in the end feels untrue to me.
Okay.
And I would say the sequel, while I kept saying improves on things, it stays consistent with these character arcs. But I also agree entirely with you that she, in most of this book, fulfills a necessity. I would say it takes that, is not dishonest to it, and actually redeems it. But this text alone does not give her enough of a actual view that it operates outside of David's. She at no point really seems to assert a narrative role outside of what David believes to be correct. She always defers to him, and I will absolutely give you that.
But I think she did that with her brother too, and
Yeah.
I think that she immediately goes from having her brother be that person that she goes to and gets guidance from to David being that person.
And it is telling in her character, but it is also a narrative thing that we must be aware of.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I didn't feel that way about it. I
believe
feel
it,
that,
but I understand at the same time
Yeah.
entirely and agree with what Gretchen said.
I mean, and I also fully admit to the fact that, I mean, as I was reading this book, I was just getting more fed up. So, like, anything I could have caught on to and be like, oh my god! I would catch on to be, oh my god.
No, it's fine. I hated it. It was natural that I loved it. It's natural that you must latch onto something to hate. It's understandable.
I think part of that is, too, that I really did enjoy Amy as a character, especially after Jennifer Lopez's character. It was just like, bleh.
We will speak of Jennifer Lopez. But in a sense, we will not speak of Jennifer Lopez because she's a joke of a character. She's a manic pixie dream girl that then is just dropped. Except that her introduction is, hey, she's not a manic pixie dream girl, is when she's just this long fart. Basically, is like, hey, we've been dating for a long time and I've lost memory of it because of situations, but girls don't fart unless you're dating them.
Unless you're dating them.
That's the explanation here. It's true. It's true.
I also super liked Fred Chu being like, if I die, tell people I'm still alive, so I come back as a legend. And then you see the little clip.
As there's a ghost of me, as I'm haunting this place.
That was like, yes, new life goal.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom. So you have like several moments at least of
Thank
like
God.
not me.
Do you have any other things that bother you?
I mean, I feel like I'm being so hard on this book, and I feel bad about that. But then, I also feel like I have to defend myself.
I know. We both like it very much, and Taylor cares more vehemently. I as a person can recognize the flaws in the things that I love. It's not that he doesn't recognize them, it's that he feels the need to be like, it's fine though. It's fine.
And I totally recognize that because I do the same thing with YA.
Yeah.
I just feel like for this one time the shoe has been flipped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, be prepared to pay for everything you have ever made me feel.
Oh, goodness. To be fair, I agree. There's a lot of dumb stuff. It's very dumb humor. There's problems with it. The pacing is weird. That's one of the first things that I said to Taylor when I read it, is that it's really weirdly constructed. There's almost no plot, overarching. It's a bunch of small arcs, almost short stories, but still one continued story, which makes it difficult to sustain, I guess.
And I think it's entirely possible that if I had been in a different mindset, if I had been in a different place, I might have been more willing to. I mean, I definitely would never have enjoyed this book as much as he does.
Yep.
In no possible way ever. Because it's just not my sense of humor. but I might have been more accepting of it if I had been in a different mindset, because, like, I'm not, it's like the hate stretch of school. I can't even read books that I know I will enjoy. So it's just like, yeah. So, and I mean, it just felt like so much to also read in a very condensed period of time, because we kind of just scheduled this. Like, I think we decided on Wednesday we would do this on Saturday, and they both already read it, so it wasn't a big deal, but I had to catch up, and I hadn't even started it yet. So I've read this entire book between now and Wednesday, which for me was a very condensed period of time to read this book. Because for me, it wasn't a fast read. It was a slog, and maybe if I had taken more time in between.
Yeah, I feel like this would have been better if you had read like a little bit each day instead of trying to read it.
Well, but I did
almost entirely all.
I read the first half in smaller segments, and then I had to read like at least 2/5 of it, the 2/5 of the ends today, just because like life.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But I mean, and I totally admit that and understand that. But, also it's one of those things where I know why I feel what I feel, as opposed to sometimes
you just don't like a thing.
Yeah, I just don't like a thing, and I can't really articulate it. And sometimes I feel very lost in that sense, because Taylor's like, you can't defend what you're saying. I'm like, I don't like the thing. Why do I have to defend that? And now I'm like, nope, I can point you to the page where the thing happened, and I was like, motherfucker.
But you see, the problem there is that the thing that you point to and say, fuck this, is the thing that both of us are like, that's really good, it's so funny. No, it's good. I really like this book. And I knew that you wouldn't like it. That's why I wanted you to read it, was because I knew that you would find it interesting, because there are a lot of things that are really interesting to be in here, but I also knew that you weren't going to like the humor, and you don't like horror, so you weren't going to like the horror things, which is one of the things that I really love about this book. Like, Taylor loves the humor in it. I love the horror in it. It's really fucking good horror.
The first part of the book, especially because a lot of this horror is written, like we said, bugs and spiders, and I hate bugs and I hate spiders. So that was solid through the first bit. And then like the spiders got 2 days, and I was just done with the whole thing. And also with like the people coming back from the dead, I just like the stakes weren't there so much for me, and I need to feel stakes for the characters.
But there were characters who died. It's just that there were characters who died in really fucking horrific ways. There was a character who got completely erased and wasn't even there sometimes.
I think the issue was the stakes were unknowable. Because people died, and we had no idea, and then they weren't dead, and we didn't really understand why they weren't dead, or why they were dead in the first place. And then there were other characters who were dead, and they were just fucking dead beyond dead. And you're like, well, okay!
Now it's my turn.
Yeah. What did we discuss? I have no idea where we are.
We were just discussing why it is that you like this book a lot, and why it is that I like this book a lot, and why I knew that she wasn't going to like this book.
Because well, in short, because we like the same books, and Gretchen hates our books. Any book that is not only narratively clear, but also, like she
does prefer a more
classic story structure.
Classic story structure, but not only that, but like she can't leave things open. In a way. There's a lot of this that you just have to take and accept and let that be the way that it is.
Like, if we were to go back to the Platonic explanation of why this book is weird, like, if we were to distill this book into a simple idea, it would be the Bratwurst.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Bratwurst is never explained. Why is it a Bratwurst? Why does the Bratwurst conduct a telephonic symbol? Official word.
Okay. Trademark.
Yes. Telephonic TM symbol. And that is because we don't necessarily need them. Because it says, yes, this is the case. None of you saw that coming. we're dealing with that, and then it does so, and then it drops it because it doesn't need it anymore, and it doesn't need to say, yeah, here's the math of how I tuned in to the frequency of a bratwurst. Because who the fuck cares? I mean, technically Gretchen cares, and that's not a bad thing. It's because, like, this is really weird. Why am I supposed to accept something that is weird because it is weird? Which, you know, is fair. But at the same time, we accept things that are humorous because it says, you never saw this coming. I'm going to give weight to this so that we can accept that this operates within the context of the universe. And then keep moving because it has exhausted its use. And because there are more weird ideas that come for it. And because Gretchen hates fun.
I don't think Gretchen hates fun.
Hashtag Gretchen hates fun.
As you tweet, hashtag Gretchen hates fun.
I'll do it.
I kind of want to talk about the scene where David gets the soy sauce and then like has that weird trip where he like goes
With
sort of back in time
priest.
to like put the fly in the gun bullet that gets shot at him so that he doesn't die.
Because that took me one reading the book, one viewing of the movie, and then a second reading the book to fully understand how, he showed up when this guy was making the bullet. So then when a fly flew into it, he wasn't paying attention because he heard David in the present's voice saying, "What's going on?" in the past. And doesn't pay attention when a fly flies into it. And then a fly is trapped in the bullet. And then when the bullet is fired in the present, in the future, from when the bullet is made, the fly damages the explosion of the bullet, thus not detonating the gunpowder and killing David. It took me 3 essential experiences of that scene to understand why didn't David die?
It's one of my favorite things. Hello, friend.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Hey, Gretchen, you missed not too much, but you've also missed the beginning of the hashtag of Gretchen hates fun. Which I'm slowly...
It will never catch on. My followers know the truth. And also, I'm the one on the floor of the bed.
Yep.
On the floor of the bed is not a sentence.
Who's been drinking for the last 38 hours?
Not it.
It was Cortica this weekend. I watched the football game. We played the sports. They had the ball. They got the points sometimes.
Okay, we need to explain. Cortica is basically our college's annual game against another New York college. Yeah, that's it.
It's like
Gretchen.
It's like our
Gretchen, the
rivalry
senior,
game.
finally showed up to the actual game and went through the drinking. Well, she went through her own version of the drinking culture, so it's not as
my version of the
detestable.
drinking culture was I was enjoying myself. However, if the situation arose, I could have been completely on point. Balance a little bit off, but otherwise communicating like a human being. As I am communicating now from Michaela's lap.
Hi.
I am a huge heavyweight drinker. I once did half a bottle of vodka, and, it was fine. So I
don't think this book club is the time, but Gretchen, did Kittredge ever tell you that story about the student from the military academy on Cortica? Because that's a special story, and we need to share
he
that.
will tell me that story afterwards.
Yeah, the book club doesn't deserve. They deserve
we are at an hour and 8 minutes. So what
Are we?
else?
Jesus.
Yeah. And you guys have places to be.
No. What's the really important military academy for military?
West Point?
West Point, thank you, yes. I'll tell this really quick. Student from Ithaca has a friend who went to West Point. And when you're in West Point, you aren't really allowed out of West Point. So he filled out all the paperwork to allow his friend to come up. And this guy comes up for Ithaca. And the friend at attending Ithaca is on the football team. So he goes to the game and he's on it. So this friend from West Point, who has not been allowed off in 3 months, and they were both party bros, basically, so they're used to drinking. He gets super drunk, downs an entire bottle of vodka he was left with, attends the game, gets bored, goes to the theater where a performance of whatever it was, I don't remember the show, but basically people were stripping down on stage as part of the show. And this guy from West Point is like, well, me and my bottle of vodka say I have a much better body than that I who have been attending West Point and doing all of this military indoctrination for 8... Indoctrination isn't the right word. 8 months of, rigorous
Remember when you
work.
said the story would be quick?
Yeah. Says, I have a much better body than that. Strips down to nothing. Runs on stage completely drunk. Is then chased off stage by campus security, essentially. Hurdles a barrier of chain link fence to where a building is being constructed on campus. Is then locked in there, realizing he is stuck in a construction zone, naked as the day he was born. And is then eventually carted off campus, forbidden to ever enter it again, and still super drunk.
Yeah, no, don't get that drunk, friends. It's not worth it. You get arrested.
So that was the student. I don't need it.
You put it down and then immediately it's just like, no.
So does anyone have anything else to say about the book?
I love it and think you should read it, and especially because the second one is even better and it's really good.
We have discussed Amy.
Really good.
We've discussed the story. We've discussed the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
We've at least addressed to an aspect of how this is released in several parts. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. It's really hard to say a sentence when you have the hiccups. So it was released in several parts, which has its ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly funny for those specific parts. Unexpected. The sequel, much more consistent narrative, reduces some of the humor. Michaela and I, who have both read it at least twice each, I think, think it is not only a stronger book, incredibly significant. We've already discussed that. Least favorite characters. Do we want to discuss? What's her name? The first girlfriend who was named after Jennifer Lopez. That throwaway name.
She wasn't throwaway.
She was absolutely a throwaway.
She was introduced to introduce Justin, who would become shitload, and then just happened to survive.
She was introduced as a manic pixie dream girl. Well, maybe not that. She was introduced as the super love interest. And then David got with her, and then he realized, oh, I'm not supposed to be with someone who's actually, special. So she dumps me because I'm horribly, horribly affected by all the things I've done. So, plot devices abound. You disapproved of that.
She just disapproves. It's valid. I completely forgot that character existed, if I'm honest.
Because she really didn't have a point.
No. But, Gretchen, would you like to actually address how very few of the women in this text actually did?
I mean, unless you're Amy,
Mm-hmm.
none of them did. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else to say about that, because I literally can't even think of another female character to name besides Jennifer Lopez.
And you know what that is?
From the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then there was Marcy, John's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then, he's also introduced to having a string of girlfriends that David is just, crushing on, but they're with John, and he, talks about her breasts more than her actual body.
Yeah.
That entire conversation.
I did want to talk about that because for every character that shows up, David discusses their breasts first, except for Amy because he thinks
she's not a woman. She is an object.
He thinks she's mentally slow and therefore sea slug. David is absolute scum. I don't believe the author is, but within the context of the text, the women that appear in it are either David's girlfriend or John's girlfriend, and both he assesses their breasts.
Nope,
first.
there's one more that was the most interesting female character in the whole thing.
Molly. The dog.
Molly the dog.
And you want to know
what does that say?
You want to know what's more interesting? In the movie, she's turned to Barkley, which is presumably a male dog. we don't know why the name was changed to Barkley, except for the pun of Bark Lee, which is how it's spelled. Lee as in the L-E-E, I guess Chinese Korean last name. Which we still don't understand. We really don't get the point of that change at all.
No. It was like a weird little thing to change, too.
It was like, Barkley, he reads off of the name tag of the dog, and it's like, okay.
In any case.
Yeah.
I think that has more to do with the David as a protagonist, but we are meant to sort of hate him. And
but it was also just, we had two male protagonists.
Yeah.
And
who are, not just that, but two very hyper masculine, or
at least hyper aware of the masculine idea.
Yeah.
As in, this is what I'm expected to be as, a competent.
I know for a fact a bunch of real life men who are like David and do assess women.
Because to be fair, it's two neck beard. Well, it's a neck beard and like a cool neck beard.
A neck beard adjacent.
Yeah. Gretchen, I would actually like to add, within context, what was really interesting for us reading this book is full of spiders, is that John, who's showed as like the really cool, funny guy, is like really weird. If nothing else in the second book, we start to begin to be really aware of not only the pressures he puts on himself, but also, for example, alcohol addiction. Because it's put as such a joke in John does at the end. He's like constantly drinking, he's constantly drunk, he's on all kinds of drugs. And that's still a punchline. In this book is full of spiders, we are aware of how miserable he is and how he latches onto this sort of thing because I am drug addicted, I am constantly drunk, I have nothing going for my life. This constant, like, fucked up attitude of everything I'm in is all that gives me meaning. And while that does not necessarily redeem the fact that this is all is used as a punchline, it says, oh, this guy that we've constantly praised as the ideal is the funniest, most interesting, most in control aspect. The cool guy, it's exactly what he is. It's like, oh, he is not only not the ideal, but he is even less happy about John, who recognizes David, in this text, himself as a monster who killed the original self, and was just kind of existing as an entity, who should be dead. He's an imitation. And I think
also that never turns bad somehow.
Well, yes, because other things that I think would be a much larger conversation. And I think we've gone on too far along, but it's just, in essence, how do you choose to be what you have been determined to be?
Yeah.
But recording her, about John, I completely understand that. I just, I will always be that stick in the mud that refuses to judge the book on what it could be or what it will be.
Which is really important for you as a reader of young adult fiction.
Yeah, just in terms of it, because if we hadn't done this book club, I doubt I would have read through the whole book, first of all, and I definitely would not pick up the sequel.
Fair.
So, for me, I have to judge this book on what it is to me.
Which is completely valuable.
Because we talk a lot about the sequel because we think it's fantastic, but we also think the first book is fantastic. So we do not expect you to read it on credit that has been accrued because you do not agree in that.
Because it's a whole conversation, you've been like, and this is really cool, and then in the sequel you find out, and I'm like...
That's been the entire hour and a half.
I don't care.
Good, because...
No, I don't care. That's not so derogatory right?
You're a different reader than we are. And that's not a bad thing.
But even without... I know, because I read this book twice before I ever read the sequel, that I still found a whole lot of interesting commentary in this, a whole lot of interesting...
Oh, no, I totally agree.
And I also find their point of view valid, especially because it is held with a critical lens. It's not just two fuckboys being like, we can do whatever we want, women are objects, whatever. It has that, but there is also the critical commentary of that. In here, it's much more subtle and under.
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's an undertone in this book. But I can see why you would have problems with that, because it is that. It's very in your face. It's very sort of bro culture. It's very low brow.
Yeah.
Like it's not meant to be high literature, but it's high literature hidden as low brow, I think.
It's like I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to do it with butt jokes.
Yeah.
I do.
And I mean, hold on.
Please.
Because there is a lot in this that I recognize as good. I just also feel like when we get in these book club discussions, you might have being polarized in one way or the other. Because like when Kayla and I talked about it, she was like, "Yeah, I also recognize some issues with that and that kind of thing." And like I recognize some good things that I like, but in this discussion, especially when I feel like I have to defend my point of view because you both think that it's really good, I end up being polarized and say, "Oh God, I just hated that." And
everything is dumb.
Yeah, I think it's a more nuanced discussion than that.
Yeah.
But in the terms of the way we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would like to raise 2 points. Have you, Gretchen, please, if you have more to say, please do so in this context. First, I would like to raise the character, other dimension, fuck if I remember his name, turns into a man-of-war jellyfish. And read the introduction of man-of-war jellyfish at the beginning of it. And he turns into a man-of-war jellyfish at the end of it and just kind of floats in the bathroom until he disappears. And that is the exact example of what you, in one aspect of my perception, have an issue with, in that it goes nowhere. It's fuck is all random.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I honestly didn't ever remember that.
Yeah, because it just happens and you're like, okay, I guess I'm just supposed to accept this because fair. Like, it's a legitimate issue because it doesn't actually do anything and it just exists. But I also want to bring up the scene in the end in which the copy of Amy has been introduced, in which she is suffering from this, thing that we've already discussed with she's infested. And the idea is that she's going to be pushed into the world, and they don't. And I'm not saying this is a gendered thing, because gendered is like, we're just going to sacrifice her. But it's also that she was just a copy. And that has always struck me as an interesting scene to latch onto. Not because I have a reading of it, and not because I, as a drunk individual, have a reading of it, because I'm losing any idea I have on it.
Yeah.
But that has always been a very significant scene for me, where it's like, this is Amy, this is someone you're supposed to, within the narrative, care about, because she's a woman, she is protected, and you are going to pull her back in. And that these characters say, this doesn't line up. This isn't real, in the sense that this is something else entirely. And I'm not saying that this is, again, let's address how women are portrayed in media, in our culture. That's all I'm trying to do. It's just a really weird, cool scene, and that you're trying to, and it's like, Amy back home, it's like, what was going on? And they're like, well,
you just died in my arms, but like, no biggie.
But you weren't supposed to die in my arms. That's just something else entirely. She was safe, and she got away from those monsters in the elevator that she was left with. It's a fucked up book. It makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, let me just do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, that's what we had to say about John dies at the end.
We know that we've just like longer than usual, but I hope
I'm
you
sorry.
enjoy that. This is probably the most heated book club that we've like ever had.
We lose time pretty easily.
It's alright, we like talking about books, that's why we have...
We care so much about books.
Hey Taylor, if there's any brain left in you, which there wasn't left to begin with, but would you like to talk about what we're doing for our final Bibliomancy episode?
Well, I will begin it, but I would rather defer to you, because as always, I have domineered most of this time. Or at least I feel like I have.
It's your pick, though.
Yeah, it's your pick, so I'm actually allowing you to speak, though I'm going to punch you in the face.
If you want to just get a punch out, do so when I'm not expecting it, because I'm not going to feel it. Just please, lunge.
I'm solid right now.
I don't believe you. It's a really soothing scooch noise. I have a lot of hair. It's stiff. It just gets like...
Okay, talk about books, Taylor. Talk about books. You have places to go.
For the next Drunk Book Club section, we will be discussing Kazuo Ishiguro's The Buried Giant. This is a book Gretchen and I may be including into a college essay of our own, dealing with the works of Kazuo Ishiguro, a prominent British, Japanese descendant novelist, one of the most significant currently living writers. The Buried Giant deals with almost a fantasized version of post-Britain occupation England. A couple barely able to understand the concept of memory, believing that they at one point had a child, going out to search for this child. Kazuo Ishiguro has beautiful writing, beautiful stories, incredibly depressing in some ways of the impotence of the characters create an influence on the narrative and of the situations they've brought themselves into.
It's going to be hilarious because all three of us will be trying to have our English major hat on.
It is literary fiction.
But
yes.
And also for this, I demand that we're all on a certain level before we go into it.
Of course.
Because I want us all to be going, and this was a conceit. And
Yes.
And because we're trying to talk about literary theory and shit.
Because it is literary fiction. It is very significant writing.
Yeah. And I think we all will probably enjoy it, which will be interesting.
Yeah, because Gretchen and I have read now 3 or 4 novels of Kazuo Ishiguro each. Michaela would definitely appreciate and enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's gonna be.
I enjoy it. You therefore would enjoy it.
But I gotta sing first. That's fine.
It's legitimately true.
Not exactly. There are some things that you enjoy that I don't.
But
anyways,
okay.
Well, you have to come back for that because this entire Bibliomancy journey has been a thing, and it's going to close out in a really strange way as well.
Yeah, so if this was the weirdest possible novel we could read, Kazuo Ishiguro is the weirdest, most unique literary fiction, which is then therefore almost a mainstream of what is the novel that we can analyze and as a group assess.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's going to be a thing.
it's going to be wild.
So, we're going to leave now because it's been so long, so we're all going to shout out our things now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
As we had mentioned at the beginning, I am Gretchen from the blog My Life is a Notebook. I am ADK Writer 15 on Twitter, on Tumblr, on something else that I have. I'm on Goodreads as my name, Gretchen Homemeyer. I'm on
Everything's linked below.
Facebook.
It's easier.
I'm doing Rebo, if you're also doing that.
If you want to follow her word choice.
Writer 15 there as well. And do not forget that Michaela and I, when we actually have free time, which is a concept that doesn't actually exist, have linked our blogs and this YouTube channel with our newly renamed family of entertainment called Betwixt the Books. And we should have a book fights video coming out eventually when we get our shit together.
Mm-hmm.
Our shit is never together.
Mm-hmm.
For seniors, we cry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah.
I'm Pied Piper Calls everywhere, forever. All my links are below. I also have a blog where I talk about books. If you liked this choice because it was mine, then you'll probably like the stuff that I do on my blog because this is what I read. Cool. I also just started reading this, which was based off of a recommendation similar to this book. So I might get a review of this up eventually, but I'm not very far into it, clearly. The first paragraph of this is very telling of how it is also similar to this, and that you probably wouldn't like it, but I enjoy it. Anyway, yeah. Taylor.
You can find me at E. Taylor Greenwood?
E.T. Greenwood.
E.T.
E.T. fuck home.
Some days I have it, some days I don't. E.T. Greenwood, spelled,
Greenwood.
Wood and green as in a color. So Greenwood, E.T. Greenwood, on Twitter.
Just remember E.T., the attractive gray alien that Tanner looks a lot like.
I do love a Stevens movie. He intended to have a sequel of that. We won't discuss.
Anyways, we need to go away.
On Twitch, I guess if you want to see me play games poorly, I am TELADE. Telade. Random name generator. It doesn't stand for anything, so you have no memory aids. So that's on you. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
I like John Dice at the end. Talk to me about books.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Bye.
And really, Jesus was this terrible and strong.